We'll be speaking a little about the budget and your plans for your ministry. So first of all, I would like you to tell me what's your vision for the ministry over the next 5 years.
Well, basically, my vision for agriculture in Guyana revolves around the fact that we have to take this whole question of climate change very seriously. Indeed, and in fact, within 30 days during this long dry season, that season we're just coming out of, we've had the highest level of rainfall this country has ever experienced. On one occasion, we had 10 inches of rain in Ogle, Georgetown area. Another occasion, we had 8.5 inches in Georgetown. The whole drainage system in Georgetown is designed for 1.5 to 2 inches rain in 24 hours. Anything above that, it will flood. And the East Coast and the estates, basically they are geared to drain no more than 2 inches in 24 hours. Now we are at or below sea level on the coastline. 80% of our population live on this piece of land, 250 miles long by 30 miles wide, in a country with 83,000 square miles. This is unsustainable in an environmental climate change. So the vision I think this government has for this nation over the next 5 years and beyond is to change our whole economic base from the coastline into the hinterland area. We have to move the population off the coast. And it's not a matter of just moving the capital. You do not move capitals and hope people follow. The capital of Australia is a place called Canberra. Nobody lives there. The capital of New York State is a place called Albany. Nobody lives there. The capital of California is Sacramento. Nobody lives there. The second biggest state in the U.S., Texas, the capital is a place called Austin. Nobody lives there. So you can't just move the capital and hope people follow. Might have a few government offices there and that's it. So we have to move our economic activity, our base for being here, into the hinterland. Now indeed, in fact, with our 83,000 square miles, Guyana is highly forested, which could be an asset that we could use to our advantage, like we did with Norwegians, and get carbon credits. But we have large areas that can go into agriculture, into large-scale agriculture, like the intermediate savannas, which are not too far from the coast, and Rupununi savannas, which of course are large and substantial. And under my remit, I would like to see us get back into that sort of thing, which I'm afraid we haven't been working on for the last 23 years. Indeed, in fact, the previous administration was only interested in rice and sugar. These are traditional crops. And their interest is not so much on their productivity, but on the fact that their supporters were in those two industries. They didn't have a large support base in hinterland, so there's no interest in pushing our development that way. We have to get back into that scene. I would like to see us re-establish agricultural stations and intermediate savannas here in the Northwest District, up in the Pacaraimos, the places like Keto or Paramakatay, and of course, back in the Rupununi. St. Ignatius Station is a shadow of its former self in the Rupununi, so we need to get a new one going there. We have to get large-scale livestock production going again, cattle and milk and sheep and goats and things of that nature, so we can export it. We have to get into large-scale production of soybean and corn, which we can do with our help from the Brazilian investors. That alone, because our whole poultry industry is based on soybean and corn, which we import. 30,000 tons a year of soybean is imported in this country. It is unnecessary. And it's a drain on our foreign reserves. So that is the way I see our agricultural development going. I'm very excited about it, and I think this is how the country should evolve. Now, we can't forget rice and sugar. Rice is probably our second biggest earner of foreign exchange, next to coal. And of course, sugar, if you close the sugar industry, it's a large block of your foreign exchange just disappears. And let us not kid ourselves. I mean, there are many very sound industries in Guyana. Industries like, say, Banks their age. I mean, it employs thousands of people, makes a lot of money. Unfortunately, the money they make is Guyana dollars. So if Banks DIH wants to buy bottle tops, it firstly has to go and borrow it. Borrow the foreign exchange from the rice industry, borrow it from the sugar industry, borrow it from gold, because in and of themselves, they do not produce a single US dollar, but they use it. So you see where I'm coming from. So they need those industries like those, but for them to be effective, they have to fall back on other industries that are foreign exchange earners. And to the extent that our foreign exchange earning industries are weak, then the survival of other industries are threatened. In short, at one time used to say that if sugar sneezes, Banks DIH catch a cold. You know what I mean? Because they can see that they are threatened. And this is the way we have to go. We have to get our sugar industry back on a sound basis. We have to push. We have to really continue expanding our rice industry to new markets. Currently, we export to 34, there are 50 countries in this world we export right now. People don't realize that. And people have made a lot out of this Venezuelan situation. And when it boils down to brass tacks, what happened was that Hugo Chavez, who had very high-priced oil available, made a good deal with Guyana and gave us a price for rice that was the highest in the world, $760 a ton or something. But then you were exchanging high-priced oil for high-priced rice. The oil price is no longer $120 a barrel. It's less than $50 a barrel. So now Venezuela is exchanging low-priced oil for high-priced rice. Totally unsustainable. Now, when that Venezuelan deal was initiated, we were exporting 30% of our rice production to Venezuela. Now we're only exporting about 30%. So it's gone the other way around because we found new markets and we've expanded our rice base. So I think with the new inputs we put and the changing of the board and the rice board and so on, we are on track to really find new markets. You know, Panama, you've expanded back into Europe in a big way. Portugal takes as much rice or more than Venezuela. People don't realize that. So I think rice is on a reasonably solid ground and on a growth potential. Sugar, we have the commission inquiry looking into that by some really highly qualified individuals who work in the sugar industry here and internationally. Every one of them have had international experience in Africa, Jamaica, Barbados, and they cut their teeth in Guyana. So they were able to start off running from day one. No question of learning the business. And so they can give us within 3 months, by the end of September, they can chart a course for us to see what we can do with the sugar industry, where the best way to go. So putting that all together, I am very excited about agriculture.
Okay. Minister, on the same note with sugar, the Skellon factory has been a sore for over the years, many, many years. Can you say what's your vision for that institution? What do you see happening and turning it around? What's your plan, if there's any?
It's tragedy of Skellon. Skellon at one time used to be the flagship for Gaisuko, prior to this new factory. It has the best climate. It has good soils, and it was a well-functioning factory. The government's idea of expanding it to making the biggest investment you ever made in this country of $200 million for a new factory might have been sound because it'll expand the cultivation as well. But how it was done, you got the Chinese to do a sugar factory, and they don't know much about sugar. You had the Indians who were experts in sugar factories, offering to do the same factory for $37 billion less, but you still give it to the Chinese. The factory isn't working. And it's hard to make it to work, and now you've compounded the problem by selling the cogeneration part of the business to GBL. Now, if you want to sell Skellon, it'll be almost impossible because no sugar-producing man will go into a factory where he's pushing in low-cost bagasse and buying back high-price
High price.
electricity to run the factory. It just doesn't make sense. So I despair what to do with Skeldon. Some of these things have to be reversed. And, but I wouldn't want to say anything more than that because let's see what the Commission of Inquiry comes up with.
Yes.
I think they're well qualified, they're well experienced to really give us a chart to be forward. You see, the government doesn't mind bailing out sugar for another year or so. But you have to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It can't be just a handing out with nothing inside. Sure, that is where that comes in.
Okay, Minister, in terms of the hinterland, I see that you have a lot of plans for them. But since there wasn't a lot of provisions made over the years, can you say how would you be helping to expand the agriculture diversification there?
Other provisions, other provisions. I worked in the hinterland for 7 years at Ibini, and we had a livestock development company that had big ranch operations at Peraro, at Ibini, at Moblisa. So there was a solid agricultural base that was growing. And I'm afraid this has collapsed over the last 23 years. No one, all these corporations just were privatized and broken up. They don't exist anymore. Where's the milk plant? It doesn't exist anymore.
But since you have been there and you know what that was like, you see the potential there.
Oh yeah.
So I'm guessing that you would be stressing and emphasizing on getting back that to that same level.
If you read my budget speech, you'll see that.
Yes, I
As
did.
I said after covering rice and sugar, I made a point. After a quarter of the speech on dispensing rice and sugar, I said, but agriculture is not only about rice and sugar. And then I went on to developing the whole question of how we should diversify our agriculture, emphasize, coconuts and cassavas, our root crops, our legumes, large-scale farming, and the ways to go about it. I'm currently in discussions with the Minister of Finance to see how we could make agricultural development in this country more attractive. Other countries, even Brazil, did a very interesting thing to get their outstations, like way up north in Brazil, going. And what they did is to approach their private sector and said, look, if you are paying so much profit tax to the government, let's say a company is paying $1,000 a year, just use a figure, in profit tax to the government. The government can say, look, any amount of money you put into the development of agriculture in the interior, you take off your profit tax. So if you put $100 into agriculture in the interior, you only give the government $900.
Yes.
Now, all the studies have been done. We can tell any company how to go about planting soybean, how to go about raising cattle, how to go about the feasibility study of dairy production. So we can give them the blueprint. So go and do it. Even if they go and they fail, at the end of the day, it would have cost them nothing, because either they've given that money to the government, or they put it in something that they're trying. And even if it fails, at least they're left with some little resort that the staff could go to on a weekend, or go and shoot deer every now and then.
Yeah.
So it's a win-win situation. And that is the kind of idea I see moving in that way. And if a company goes in and say the intermediate savannas and develop and get a lease for 10,000 acres, they could happily share 5,000 of those with farmers, contract farmers, that they can give them the facilities of water. They'll be buying their produce, so they will be sort of sharing their risk. So while they're planting 5,000 by 10,000, the other 5,000 will be planted by farmers.
Yes.
And these are those solid land masses, 300-400 acres each farmer. So, so that way you can see development going, and you can see where eventually the capital could be moved to some region.
Okay, Minister, let's speak a little about aquaculture. That's something that over the years I've seen has had a growing interest. A lot of people, especially the private companies, want to get into aquaculture. What is your vision for that? What do you see happening over the next 5 years?
Well, we have a very large coastline.
Yes.
And of course, there's a question of the aquaculture in the hinterland. Though it's such a competitive business. But yet, some of the bigger fishing areas, the fishing association, the bigger boys, are now looking at deep sea fishing and going into things like tuna production. I'm excited about that too. I have some reservations about the inland aquaculture situation. I mean, the farming of fish inland. Because like tilapia, that we thought we could do very well in, China is producing tilapia and selling it in the United States at $1 a pound. Now, when they can do that, it's difficult to compete with that. So you have to know what you're doing, let's put it that way. But in the future, agriculture is not for the faint-hearted. It's not really for the small farmer unless he's attached to a bigger conglomerate. Even our rice industry now, we're finding that the small farm is going out. Our production is going up per acre, largely because the farms are getting bigger. And even bigger farmers are leasing land from small farmers and doing a far better job than a small farmer can. So the whole question of feeding Guyana, the bread basket of the Caribbean, exporting our potential really has a lot more to do with size and efficiency than with really small farming or traditional farming or subsistence farming.
Okay, Minister, my final question. Piracy is something that has been a big issue. And at the Fisher Folk Day, I heard you speak about your plans in terms of addressing that. And I'm sure our viewers would like to know a little more about that. So if you don't mind, can you just tell us a little about how you would go about dealing with that?
Well, that's how I'll go about it, because I'm not in the security business. But we're certainly in discussions with the Minister of Public Security. We're in the discussions with the Guyana Defense Force.
Yes.
And you saw they were at the Fisher Folk Day,
yes.
the Coast Guard. And we're also not unaware of the fact that a lot of our piracy is largely internal. You know, I mean, you have situations of, I probably shouldn't say this, but fishing boat goes out, comes back in 24 hours saying it has been pirated, and the pirates come and take their glue and their catch and so on. Well, there is no way you can run any glue and much catch in 24 hours. So one questions, you know, what is piracy? They might be the same people who go and rob the other boats with their glue and their catch. And when you talk to the fisher folk, many of them don't wish to speak because they ain't sure where their neighbor is the pirate. So it's a very complex thing. Apart from the real piracy, you have, you know, the internal piracy, the collusion, this kind of thing. So I have to leave it in the hands of the more experienced people.
Okay. Well, Minister, that's my final question. If there is nothing else that you would like to touch on, or I would like to give you the opportunity to expand on anything else that you would like to, if there is any.
No, I think that should be a mouthful.
Okay, Minister, well, thank you very much, and we wish you the best for the future.